Okay, back at you on the Rich Van Tassel channel. We're going to break down the AFC North right now. I'm going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, with this division, I think a lot of teams have a lot of question marks. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, I wouldn't say they have the least amount of question marks. They're the team that I trust the most to solve any questions that they have. I mean, this is the Steelers we're talking about. Consistently good. The Rooney family are, the definition of what owners should be in any sports level. So while I think the Steelers have questions, I totally trust the Rooneys and the way the Steelers organization is going to solve any of those problems. I'm going to start on offense. They have a nice little triplets. Anyone who's old enough to remember the Cowboys triplets of Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, and Michael Irvin. Similar situation we have going on here with the Steelers. Le'Veon Bell, running back, had a sensational year last year, was hurt for the playoff game. Likely one of the reasons the Steelers lost that playoff game. Ben Roethlisberger, we know what he can do. Not always polished, not always refined, doesn't always look great, but he's a winner. He's a gamer. He makes big plays. He's got the size. He's got the arm strength. He knows what to do. He's been around this league for a long time. He's going to be just fine. And Antonio Brown, a wide receiver, had a very good year last year. I mean, certainly, I would hear the argument that he's good as, or if not better than a Dez Bryant and AJ Green. He's certainly up there in the elite list above everyone else with the aforementioned players. He's a speed guy, can break you down downfield. Also, he's dangerous if he catches the ball short and you don't get him to the ground quick. He can be gone. So that's where their offense lies. As far as their playmakers, along with Ben Roethlisberger, Heath Miller also a very solid tight end as well. On their offensive line, I think they're very solid on the interior. David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey. David DeCastro playing right guard, Marquise Pouncey at center. I think they're two stalwarts. They're potentially beyond the All-Pro team this year. And Ramon Foster is also solid on the inside. Their question marks come with the tackles. Kelvin Beachum on the left side protecting Ben Roethlisberger's blind side. I think he's a little undersized. I mean, he's 6'3", 303. Usually, I think the tackle should be at least 6'5", 6'4", maybe 6'3". I'm just not sure if he has the potential to get overpowered by taller offensive or taller defensive pass rushers. But it is useful when you're playing teams with a smaller guy like a Dwight Freeney of the past and a Jerry Hughes nowadays. But again, he's a little undersized. Marcus Gilbert on the other side. Their tackles are the biggest question mark. But they're strong on the interior, so that should make up for any issues that they have in the line. When we go to their defense, their linebacking core is very strong. Ryan Shazier coming into his own as a player on the inside. Lawrence Timmons also on the inside. Makes them formidable, stopping the run, obviously. Jarvis Jones has become a very good pass rusher coming out, and the 3-4 defense with the Steelers run as the outside linebacker pass rusher. So the linebacking core is solid. On the secondary, Cortez Allen, a guy with good size, signed a big contract, hasn't been quite what everyone was hoping for since then. I like Cortez Allen. I expect him to do big things. I think he can cover anyone with his size, especially. And when playing in this division, you have a AJ Green and you need bigger cornerbacks to mark up those guys. You also have Will Allen at safety. Will Allen's been in this league for a long time. He knows how to play. His consistency's been an issue. You just don't know, especially at his age, what you're going to get with him. He came into Dallas. He was supposed to solidify their safety position a few years ago and didn't really get the job done. He's been good since coming to Pittsburgh, so they'll need him to play well, especially now that they don't have football on anymore. Their safety is a big question mark. And we have the Steelers going 10-6 and winning that division. So we'll move on to the second place team, the Baltimore Ravens. I have them going 8-8. Obviously, Joe Flacco is a very good quarterback. He's excellent in the clutch. Would I put him in the Eli Manning clutch category? Not quite, but he's certainly one of the more money-time quarterbacks, for lack of a better term, that there is in this league. Justin Forsett was finally given an opportunity last year at a big year, over 1,200 yards rushing. This guy's at 5.1 career yards per rush, yards per carry in his career. He's 29 years old, so we'll see if he can maintain that. But 5.1 yards per carry, very impressive. So looks like he's been given an opportunity. Similar size to what Ray Rice, 5'8", smaller guy, tough to tackle, tough to see, behind big offensive linemen. So we'll see if he can keep it up. He's finally given an opportunity, and he really flourished. But, his entire career, those numbers have been good. He hasn't really had the carries, but he still had a good amount of carries where you can say it's not just a fluke of one season. And, his numbers are inflated by a big year where he didn't have many carries. No, they're consistent enough to really be impressed by that 5.1 yards per carry. On their offensive line, Marshall Yanda is their best. Rick Wagner is moving into his second year at right tackle. He's a guy out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin always produces good offensive linemen. That's part of their philosophy. They like to run the ball. You have a Joe Thomas in Cleveland and a Travis Frederick in Dallas, left tackle and center respectively, two of the better players at their positions in the league, both out of Wisconsin. So we'll see if Rick Wagner coming into the second year is really going to take a step into the elite level. I would expect so because that's what you get with Wisconsin offensive linemen. Receiving core, it's really Steve Smith. He said this is going to be his last year. Small guy, 5'9", always been a tough competitor, always been a game breaker downfield. He's not afraid to make the big catches. Is he going to be totally focused in this last year? You would expect so, especially with a guy like Steve Smith. He wants to win and go out on top. But at that age, you just don't know. It can go just like that in the NFL. So we'll see how Steve Smith can do this year. I'd expect him to have a quality year, being that it is his last year and he's the consummate professional. But there's always that question mark with the age. I'm moving to the defensive side of the ball. Jimmy Smith, cornerback, big guy, big, solid, physical cornerback. I've liked him since he was drafted. I think this is a year he's really going to flourish, and you'll be discussing it with the Patrick Petersons, the Richard Shermans, Joe Haydens, the Darrell Davises as well this year. I really am expecting a very good year out of Jimmy Smith. Ladarius Webb on the other side, serviceable pro. He's going to be fine, with Jimmy Smith. If Jimmy Smith can lock down a side on his own, and you give Ladarius Webb help when he needs it, your secondary is going to be very solid this year. And then at linebackers, they have a very good linebacking core. You have Terrell Suggs, pass rusher, getting up there in age. I don't think his decline is here just yet, and I expect him to have a double-digit sack year. As well, C.J. Mosley, kind of drafted a few years ago out of Alabama on the inside, good player. And Cordy Upshaw also is going to line up on the outside, opposite side of Terrell Suggs in the 3-4 defense. It's going to be pass rushing, so they'll wreak havoc on the end. Baltimore, known for their defense. So they should be putting pressure and applying pressure on quarterbacks. Their defensive line, though, is where I really see the biggest problems with this team. They lost to Lodi Nada, who's been an anchor of that defensive line on the inside. At nose tackle, Chris Canty is a good player. They have him. He's been there since last season. I expect him to be the stalwart of that defensive line, but I see this team really struggling with their run defense, especially with the departure of Floyd Nana. Chris Canty is an end now. An end, obviously, in 3-4 set plays a bit more in the run predicament, more of just an additional tackle usually as you look at it. But he's still not going to be right in the inside, and he's nowhere near as massive as Floyd Nana is. So I'm expecting that's where this team is going to fall apart, and I don't have them making the playoffs. I have them going 8-8. So, but you'll never know with Joe Flacco. They're well coached with John Harbaugh. Flacco can make plays, and he plays his best when the situation calls for it. So don't be surprised if they do it. But I don't have them making the playoffs. Move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. I have them going 7-9. The Bengals have had a successful run these last few seasons. They've been good. They made the playoffs, haven't won in the playoffs. Well, I'm wondering if this is the start of the decline. I'm wondering if Marvin Lewis survives past this season. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Bengals got out to a bad start if Marvin Lewis is cut loose. It could possibly be early in the year, especially if they're trying to make a change to salvage this season. But if things really get out of hand, I could see Marvin Lewis definitely being gone before the season's out. If they don't make the playoffs, which I don't expect they will, I don't expect Marvin Lewis to be back. A lot of people might have thought he should have been gone prior to this. He's not. He's a good coach. This is an indictment on him. However, you're only going to stay, they weren't at the top of the league. Obviously, they hadn't even won playoff games, but you're not going to stay that consistent that long in the NFL. That's just not how it works. They have enough talent that they can win games. There's no reason this team can't make the playoffs. But again, if this was a year where they hadn't made the playoffs last year, or had missed the playoffs a few seasons here and there, I could see them going to the playoffs. I just don't see them, going to the playoffs again for Will this be the fourth straight season, possibly fifth straight? I have to double check that if they do make the playoffs. Andy Dalton, playoffs are the issue. I don't know why that is for him. I think he has all the ability. I think he's shown it. Last year's playoff, I'll cut him a little bit of a break. AJ Green was not playing. I don't know what it is with him, why he can't seem to succeed in the playoffs, but he'll have a solid regular season. He'll keep him competitive as a good quarterback, and certainly in the regular season. AJ Green, elite. Again, we mentioned Antonio Brown before, Des Bryant, Calvin Johnson when healthy, he's up there. And, if I were to say anyone besides Des Bryant is the best wide receiver in the league, it'd be AJ Green. I thought he should have been the number one pick, frankly, when he came out of the draft. You just don't have any question marks with this guy, 6'4", can beat you downfield, can go over the middle, can just do it all. AJ Green is sensational. He's top flight. There's no worries with him whatsoever. You have to look at the complementary pieces of the offense with this team. Tyler Eifert, the tight end, Giovanni Bernard, the running back, and Marvin Jones, lining up on the outside, opposite of AJ Green. They've been solid, throughout their careers. They're one of the reasons why this team has been successful. But as mentioned before, if you're expecting this team to take a step back, start to decline, I could see this is where where that starts to become more evident. You're going to get what you get from AJ Green. You're going to get what you get from Andy Dalton. When things start to go wrong, you'd expect these complementary guys who have played well. I don't want to say overperformed, but have played up to their capabilities and have been solid contributors. This is where I'd expect them to, slide back, especially if things start getting out of hand early in the year. The offensive line, Andrew Whitworth is the best at left tackle, covering Andy Dalton's blind side. Andre Smith at right tackle, ever since coming out from Alabama. This guy was supposed to be as good as it gets when it comes to tackles. I think he's been underwhelming since coming into the league. So we'll see what they can do there. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, the reason why this team will be competitive and could make the playoffs. And frankly, if they ever made the playoffs, I think it's surprising me why they can't do damage. But it also wouldn't surprise me why, if they ever do make the playoffs, it would surprise me if they go far and possibly win a Super Bowl, is their defensive line. Folks, this is as good as it gets. They're not only very talented all the way across the board, but also deep as well. I mean, you have at your defensive ends Carlos Dunlap and Michael Johnson. They get sacks. They apply pressure on the outside and up the middle with Domata Peko and Geno Atkins stopping the run. This is a sensational defensive line. I mean, I would rival it. I'd probably say it's better than the Jets. And as we discussed earlier, the Jets, I think, have the best front seven in the league, one of the best front sevens. But I still think that the only difference here is that Cincinnati's linebackers are weaker than the Jets' linebackers. This is a sensational defensive line. And as mentioned before, I mean, you look at the Giants when they won the Super Bowl, especially in 2007 specifically, how good an defensive line playing hot can be, and how devastating that can be, especially in the playoff line. At linebacker, Raymond Lou at the middle linebacker, he's their best player, solid, always going to be good. He's going to play well this year. Going into the secondary, Leon Hall is their best cover guy. Drake Kirkpatrick, I don't know why he can't start. He's not listed as a starter on the depth chart today. Big guy, 6'2", especially in this division. But then again, AJ Green is on the Bengals. But, even just in general, you need the big cornerbacks. I've been preaching that basically in every team that has them. And all the breakdowns I've been doing. Big cornerbacks, especially in this league, because you need to. It's the only way you can really defend in the pass happy league. So I'd like to see if he gets a chance and see what he can do, and I think he'd really be able to blossom. Reggie Nelson at safety is their best safety. We'll move on to the last place team, which would be the Cleveland Browns. I have Cincinnati going 7-9. Move on to the Cleveland Browns. They will go 6-10 this year. Cleveland is very interesting because they have not just good players, they have elite players at a variety of different positions. Joe Thomas, we mentioned before when we were discussing Rick Wagner on Baltimore as a Wisconsin offensive lineman. If it wasn't for Tyron Smith, I'd say Joe Thomas is the best left tackle in the league. And certainly anyone who's going to tell me Joe Thomas is the best left tackle in the league, I wouldn't even argue that position. I just happen to like Tyron Smith more, but Joe Thomas is elite. We're not talking about very good. We're talking about a guy who rarely ever misses games. He's as good as he gets. He's going to shore up the blind side. This guy's sensational. And Alex Mack at center. Again referencing a Cowboy offensive lineman, Travis Frederick. I think Alex Mack is better than Travis Frederick, and Travis Frederick is very good. You have Eric Wood out in Buffalo. I'd probably rob these two as 1 and 2. 1 or 1A actually would be more fitting. Alex Mack is in the lead center. Where this team goes wrong, quarterback. Johnny Manziel, brief what I think of him. I think Johnny Manziel, a lot of what's happened to him is based on the hype that people put on him. I think if you just let him alone, he was in recovery last summer, or this previous summer. Let's see what he can do. Let him, recover. Let him beat this illness. I wish him all the best. I wish people would just let Johnny Manziel play and stop making everything he does the Johnny football spectacle. Just let the guy be, and I think he would win the job, and I think he would play well. But unfortunately, they have Josh McCown. I don't think Josh McCown's going to get the job done. The receivers no longer have Josh Gordon. He can't seem to get his act together. There's another guy, for example, when he's on the field, he's in the elite class with the Des Bryants, with the A.J. Greens, with the Calvin Johnsons. So, but he's not playing. You have Brian Hartline and Dwayne Bowe. Dwayne Bowe is solid. Brian Hartline is solid. There's nothing to sneeze at with this receiving core. I just don't think they're anything spectacular though. And then moving to the defensive side of the ball, Joe Hayden, a guy who doesn't get the publicity. I think he's there as the elite corners in the group of the Richard Shermans, of the Darrell Reeves, of the Patrick Petersons, of a Jimmy Smith if it happens this year. Guy's good. He'll cover the one side of the ball. He can take on the best receivers in the league. He's an elite guy, which is I just can't understand Cleveland. I don't know if it's just the Cleveland curse, whatever it is, but I still don't have this team winning. Most of that it has to do with Josh McCown, and then really no really no running back core. We don't have much of a linebacking core either. Paul Kruger is another guy. Dante Whitner. Paul Kruger is a pass rushing linebacker. Dante Whitner is a safety. These are guys who I don't put in the elite esteem, such as Joe Thomas, Joe Hayden, Alex Mack. But they're very good players as well. Paul Kruger has really improved since coming in the league. Top 15 at worst, maybe even better than that. Dante Whitner is a top 10 safety. I'd say probably 7 or 8. So again, the talent is there with this team. If Johnny Manziel was coming in as the starter, he was given time last year to develop. I think this team might make some noise. And if Johnny Manziel ends up playing at some point, they might make noise because again, they have elite talent. They weren't that bad last year. They certainly exceeded expectation. They don't have Brian Hoyer playing quarterback anymore. He had a good year last year, but they could solve that quarterback play. It wouldn't be, it would be very interesting to see what Cleveland would do this year. However, I'm not expecting much. I think they're going to be 6-10, last place finish. So, for the people of Cleveland, I guess you're waiting for the basketball season to start at this point. See if LeBron James can finally bring that city a championship. So, they're starting before that. So we'll give you the recap here. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this division. I think that the team that can solve any of the question marks the best. They have the big three: Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. Offensive line better up the middle with David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, and Ramon Foster. Their tackles, Kelvin Beachum especially, a little undersized on the left side, but very good interior. Their defense, linebacking core, very good. Ryan Shazier, Jarvis Jones rushing on the outside, and Lawrence Timmons also on the inside with Shazier. And Cortez Allen at safety. Cortez Allen is the cornerback, big guy. They're going to need him to play well and finally live up to that contract. Will Allen, question marks at safety. Is he going to be consistent, or could this be one of those years where he's just playing poorly and you don't know why? Baltimore Ravens, we have them going 8-8. Pittsburgh was 10-6. Joe Flacco, good under pressure. Justin Forsett, 5.1 yards per carry for his career. He was given the opportunity last year, and we'll see if he can keep it up. He didn't have much workload his entire career as he did last year. The offensive line, Rick Wagner, we again discussed Wisconsin players, Wisconsin offensive lineman. He's at right tackle coming into his second year. Marshall Yanda is their best at right guard. with Steve Smith, it's going to be his last year. I expect him to play very well, but at that age again, you never know. And the cornerbacks, Jimmy Smith, I expect him to take a step in the level with Joe Hayden's, Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman's, obviously names. But Darius Webb on the other side can be very well, especially with Jimmy Smith shutting down the other side. The linebacker is good. Terrell Suggs rushing the passer along with Cody Upshaw and C.J. Mosley up the middle. They're going to miss Haloti Ngata on the defensive line. Chris Canty is the best player on the defensive line. They will go 8-8 this year. Cincinnati Bengals, could this be the decline? I expect it to happen. Andy Dalton, good regular season player. I expect him to play well. AJ Green, sensational. Again, as we were discussing before, it's going to be the complementary players on that offense. I expect them to dip back a little. And things could really get out of hand. Marvin Lewis could be gone if things are getting out of hand early. And if this team doesn't make the playoffs, I don't see Marvin Lewis being the coach. Not an indictment on him. He has been there a while, though. Sometimes you just need a new voice. Offensive line, Andrew Whitworth, the best at left tackle, and Andre Smith, the disappointments coming in the league. Defensively, we discussed their line, deep and excellent all the way around. Carlos Dunlap and Michael Johnson at the end positions with Domata Peko and Geno Atkins up the middle. And you also have Wallace Gilberry in end and Devin Still at tackle, so they're deep as well. Those guys are coming off the bench, as we would say in the NBA. Ray Maluga, their best linebacker. Drake Kirkpatrick, a big corner. We'll see what he can do if he can break into the starting lineup this year. And then the last place team, we had Cincinnati at 7-9. Last place team, the Cleveland Browns, had them going 6-10. They have the elite players, Joe Thomas, Alex Mack on the offensive line, left tackle and center respectively. On the defensive side of the ball, Joe Hayden, an elite cornerback, which makes you wonder why this team can't seem to get it together. Josh McCown is going to be their biggest problem this year. So, Johnny Manziel, if he can get right, we'd like to see him play. And I think they might be able to make noise with him. He's an electrifying player. But first things first with Johnny Manziel, we just want him to do well. So that's it for the AFC North. Today was Thursday, September 3rd. On tomorrow, the 4th, we will be discussing the NFC South. So, hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.